Good morning, CSL Prescott. It's good to be with you folks again. I didn't have this on my notes, but I want to talk about, you've got some classes coming up, and I think Science of Mind classes are what transforms people's lives. You've got Foundations starting tomorrow, and tonight's the last night, and then you've got the Essential Earnest. So I really encourage you to get involved in the classes. Now, as I speak this morning, as always, I encourage you to get underneath the words I use, get underneath the concepts, and just notice if you can find something that you can use to improve the quality of your life. Because that's what my intention is, to empower you to improve the quality of your life. This is a little different than sometimes when I speak, because my message for 50 years has been about all things are possible, that you can create belief, you can make your dreams come true, move forward, move forward, move forward, never take no for an answer. But the themes this month in our marvelous center here, the theme this month is facing fear. The theme for today is dealing with skepticism, doubt, and faith. So with that in mind, let me move into talk about what I think is going on today in our culture. I don't know about you, but these last few months have had many scary and confusing times for me. And I don't get scared. I usually don't get confused. I have done my time in fear. Most of you know my story. When it was my early 20s, I spent 285 nights in a private room in a hospital waiting for the next surgery to leave me with a body that was broken for all time. I know how to deal with fear. I know how to get past fear. I know how to create faith. You see, that's the cornerstone for Science of Mind. Science of Mind allows you to start right where you are and use the tools of choice to create belief, to create knowing, to create a new reality for yourself. All of my works, my book, my Everybody Wins program, my seminars, the work that I've done up there when I've been with you these past times have all been about making your dreams come true. And these last few months with this virus, this pandemic, and now with the fires going on up and down the West Coast, there are times when I sit in my office and experience feelings of fear and confusion. Now, I'm not saying that I'm on the brink of ending it all. I'm just sharing with you that this pandemic and the worldwide suffering, the fear, the chaos, and the confusion has presented me with challenges that I have not had for a long time. And I would never assume that what's going on for me is what's going on for you. But many of my clients have spoken about this time they feel things are different. They're not as confident about moving forward. The brain uses past information as a framework for how it perceives and handles current situations. I mean, we all know that as we grow, we're exposed to different situations, both successes and failures, our consciousness or our beliefs, attitudes, and opinions shift as we gather new information and are better able to handle the things that are going on in our life. That's called personal growth. But today, many professionals in the mental health industry are saying that the circumstances surrounding the pandemic are unique, in that most of us have no framework or no reference on how to respond. These professionals say that other disasters are more defined. Many are clearly visible. You can see a storm coming. Most have beginnings and endings. But this pandemic and pandemics like this are more difficult to judge, even including whether or not they're being overhyped. Feeling intermittently or constantly on edge, or worried, or skeptical, or fearful, or any of the other feelings you may be having regarding what's going on in your life because of this global health challenge are normal. It's part of the flight or fight reactions that are an automatic part of our consciousness that allows us to deal with circumstances in our life. So this confusion, this wondering about what's next, you are not going crazy. I am not going crazy. We are simply trying to cope with a new reality, whether we are sick or not. In summary, what these therapists throughout the world are saying, it's okay to feel not okay. It's okay to feel at times not okay. Now, with that being said, first and foremost, we must remember that the brain gets better at what it practices. And if we practice or dwell on being skeptical and full of doubt, we will find more evidence that we should be skeptical and full of doubt. In other words, it will do us no good to stay stuck in, ain't it awful? As metaphysicians, we are still responsible for creating our personal realities. And I suggest perhaps the realities of others. When I was first studying the tools of choice and how I might use them to create the reality I wanted, and that where it might be possible for me to regain my health, when the doctor said I was not going to get well, that the chances of me ever being healthy were 1,000,000 to 1. I did not start with what I needed to do to regain my health. I was so overwhelmed with the daily challenges of dealing with the infection in my spine and the negative prognosis of permanent disability, I could not begin to believe that anything I could do would have any effect. And I am in no way comparing what I was going through with the severity of what's happening today. It's just that a month or so ago, I noticed some feelings that I had inside that I hadn't felt, and except back when I was in my early 20s, in the beginning of this health challenge I faced. As I stated, I was so overwhelmed with the daily challenges of dealing with the infection in my spine and the negative prognosis, I could not begin to see the possibility of what I could do would have any effect. And I submit that many of us here today are experiencing a similar position regarding what's going on with this pandemic. There are so many uncertainties. There's the possibility of devastating consequences to our individual and shared world being that perhaps for now, maybe the best use of these tools is we can use them to keep the negatives within tolerable limits. What I mean by that is to keep the negatives from overwhelming us so that we just get lost in despair and skepticism and doubt. We can use these marvelous tools we teach in Science of Mind to create an environment where what's going on right now is going on, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be that way forever. In my book, I talk about when I was experiencing this overwhelm with all of the circumstances regarding my health, that positive affirmations like I'm going to get well or I can do anything really didn't hold much water for me. They didn't hold any truth. So I created what I called a statement of being. It was an overall declaration that I could use throughout my day to remind me, to remind me about how I wanted to hold what was going on in my now. The overall theme of this statement of being was that I was moving through this challenge, even though I didn't know the end result yet. And I didn't feel confident about creating that yet. I was moving through it. First, within that, I wanted to reinforce the idea that I was not alone. We talked about it. We talked about it, that in Science of Mind, the cornerstone is that there is this infinite presence supporting us, backing us up, willing to support us in what we desire. And that was number one. I wanted to reinforce the idea that I wasn't alone. God was with me, even when my fear and doubt. Number two, I wanted to reinforce that this all-powerful presence was supporting me, and I was finding that support. So I wanted to acknowledge that support on a daily basis. And then third, I wanted to bring some peace in my mind in not knowing what I needed to do, and at the same time, encourage me to keep moving forward. I think that's a key thing here. I wanted to acknowledge that I didn't know at this moment what I needed to do, but that was okay because I was moving forward and there was this infinite presence assisting me. And that's where we are today. We may not be able individually to say, this is exactly how this is going to go and this is what's going to happen, and really own that. But we can hold that we're not alone. There is this infinite presence backing us up, and all we need to do is take one step at a time. In the beginning, I wasn't trying to completely eliminate my skepticism. I wasn't trying to completely eliminate my doubt and fear, because every day I was reminded of it. Every day the doctors would come in with their negative prognosis. What I wanted to acknowledge was that I was unsure, and I wanted to keep the negatives within tolerable limits so that I could begin to move forward, so that I could begin to look for the answers to the solutions I was seeking. If you choose to use something like this, what I suggest is to create a statement that is mostly true for you based on where you are now. It's okay to fudge a little bit, but if you fudge too much, if you get way out there, your mind may not be able to even begin to acknowledge that this is possible. I call this step, making our declaration, a believable hope. I was using this overall statement of being to develop an overall template where all of my thoughts, both positive and negative, could fit into what I was discovering, what I was declaring. I had my statement on a 3x5 card. I printed it out and I would read it. And sometimes I would read it 20 or 30 times a day to keep me from being overwhelmed. Most of the time it worked. Not necessarily in the beginning, it didn't work really well. There were still nights where I would cry myself to sleep in fear and skepticism and doubt. But as I continued to use this statement over and over, I began to own the possibility of creating what I wanted. I began to own the possibility that I could create faith, even starting from fear and doubt. My statement of being went like this: As I move into this time of creation, I feel the power of something bigger than me, moving with me, supporting me, empowering me. I know all things are possible. And as I explore how I'm going to create the healing I desire, I will notice this support and acknowledge it. I know that I do not have to figure this out all at once. All I have to do is begin right where I am and consciously choose to move toward what I want. My life is not one problem after another. It is right now a time of discovery and creation. And out of my own being, I feel the joy and freedom that comes with knowing I can create reality. Notice this statement covers the 3 points I wanted to hold in my mind. First, I wanted to reinforce that I wasn't alone. God was with me. Second, I wanted to feel this powerful force, this powerful presence, and begin to acknowledge it and how it was supporting me. And third, I wanted to bring some peace in me, not knowing exactly what I needed to do at the time, but encourage me to get moving. The key here is for you to develop a statement that is mostly true, based on where you are now, and at the same time, nudge you into the reality you want to create. For example, you may start with something like, even in my fear, I know that there is an infinite power. Even in times when I feel confused, there is an infinite power. You get to start right where you are and at the same time acknowledge the movement of where you're going. And remember, you do not have to figure this out all at once. There are tools you can use. I'm not suggesting that we stay and only focus on keeping the negatives within tolerable limits. It's not about staying there. It's keeping the negatives within tolerable limits, limits that don't overwhelm you, so that you can begin using the tools to move forward step by step to create the reality that you want. Remember, you're holy, and all things are possible if only you believe. I encourage you to close your eyes and allow my words and my intention to give you hope. You are not alone. Your spiritual family is praying for you. We are right now sending you love and peace. Feel it. Feel it. You are not alone. You are not alone. People all over the world are praying for you. They are sending you healing. They are sending you peace and hope. Your family, your human family is praying for you even now. Be open. Feel it. You are not alone. The infinite presence and power of God is who you are. Take a moment. Feel this presence as who you are right now, right in the middle of what's going on. Take a moment and feel the power as you. You are not alone. Remember, all things are possible if you believe you are. For just a moment, allow your mind to move you past doubt and fear. Feel the love and peace of belonging here with your spiritual family. Remember always, you are not alone. We have each other. Open your eyes. You're the crowning achievement of the living God. Back to you, Kathleen.
Wow, so just staying in that very sacred space. We are not alone, we are all one. And there is a divine being that exists right here, right now, that is the only power and presence in the universe. I believe in God and absolutely, positively, nothing else. Any other signs of confusion or chaos, any other signs of discord, do not belong to the infinite good, and so they are transitory. They did not come to stay, they came to pass. And so in this moment, that which is eternal about me and eternal about you and eternal about all of us is that infinite truth, is the infinite truth of that love and that support and that peace of which my soul brother Terry spoke. That love and that support is already here in every single cell of every single body. And it is with that love and support that we all stand now in our truth. God lives in, through, and as all of us. And it is that perfect love that is God that casts out fear. I'm so grateful that this is simply the way Spirit works. This is simply what Spirit does. And so as we create and recreate our world, Spirit becomes more and more obviously embodied within each and every one of us. More and more obvious in our lives and in our financial affairs and in our relationships and in the world around us in general. The power of the one mind gives us control over conditions, allows us to heal anyone who believes themselves to be sick. And standing in that faith, standing in that knowing without a doubt in my mind, I know that the law has already gone into work, that it has already swung into action, and it is making it so according to my word and according to Terry's word. I bless and celebrate all of this and so much more, all of which is Spirit. I call it all good and very good, and so it is.